Welcome to The Healthy Advisor, a podcast from WealthManagement.com focused on advisors' personal well-being and healing. I'm Diana Britton, managing editor of WealthManagement.com, and in this podcast we explore some of the struggles and personal development issues facing advisors and financial services professionals, and how to get to a place of healing for mind, body, and spirit. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Healthy Advisor podcast, and thanks for joining us. As you may know, this is the podcast focused on financial advisor health and well-being, and today's guest has a lot to say on the subject. Her name is Maria Castillo Dominguez. She's a senior financial planner at Appella Wealth, a fee-only planner in Miami. Maria, thank you so much for being here. We're recording live from Wealth Management Edge. Really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure, and I'm very excited about this.
Yes, same here. So, you wouldn't know it by meeting her, but Maria has been through a lot of adversity to be where she is today. She grew up in Ronda. Am I saying that right?
Yes,
a
Ronda.
Small mountaintop town in the south of Spain. Her family didn't have much money. She relocated to the U.S. by herself at age 25 with just $400 to her name. Didn't speak English. She was the first person in her family to get a college degree. So Maria, take us back to growing up in the small town of Spain. What was your childhood like?
That's a very good question. So I had, despite all the adversities that I had in my life, I had a happy childhood. I was surrounded. My mom was a great mother. We had some issues with my dad. So he had some problems with addictions, etc., that we had to maneuver. But in general, my childhood was actually not bad. It was very humble. I had two brothers. My mom had to manage a lot on her own. But like any other Hispanic family, I have a large family. So a lot of cousins, a lot of uncles, and a lot of people, a good support system around me. So I did have a happy childhood. It was not a lot of opportunities for me, though, because, of the background that I have. All my family have labor jobs. Nobody has really qualified jobs. Nobody in either side of my family, not mom, not dad, went ever to college. So many of them didn't even finish high school. So really, not having any connections in life, because that's the job that they have, that's what they live through. It wasn't challenging for me. It was a little bit challenging in the finance side, but the support system fortunately was there.
Yeah. And so I know you said that you left home at 17.
18.
18.
Yeah.
And started living on your own. How did you do that? And what kind of triggered you to just say, I'm leaving this place?
Yeah. So, I always, even though I grew up a certain way, I always felt a little bit different. I always had a little fire on me saying, hey, there are greater things waiting for me. So I was 17 when I first came to my mom and say, hey, mom, I want to go to college. I want to do something else. I want an office job. I remember telling her that. I want an office job. I didn't even know what that was, right? Because all my family, nobody had an office job. So what I did, actually started working, because my parents did not have the resources to help me out, to even move to another city. I obviously have to move out to go to college, because I come from a very small town. There was nothing there. Once you finish high school, you have to go somewhere else. So I went to Sevilla. I got admitted to the University of Sevilla, and I went there to earn a bachelor in business. How I got there is actually working. And anything that was in front of me, anything that I could get my hands off to make money, I did it. So I did. Name it, I have done it. Cleaning, I clean a yoga center. I used to do bartending, and I'm very bad at it because I don't drink. So you can imagine how that went.
Yeah.
Babysitting, I took care of actually old people too, like a caregiver, anything that I could put money into help me through college, mostly for my expenses, because I didn't have much resources. My college was paid for with grants. I got grants every year. I didn't have to pay for my tuition $1 single through all the years that I went through college, just for my master, a portion, but not for my bachelor's. But the rest, was just working hard, and working on the weekends, working at night, and wherever I could get my hands off to make money, really.
Yeah, I really admire that. So tell me about how the 2008-2009 crisis impacted Spain.
Yeah, so we saw the consequences, I want to say maybe a little bit later than in the US. So it carried over,
Okay.
right? So about at the same time, but it was like a wave, right? That it came a little bit later. It hit Spain, like other countries in Europe, very hard. But, Spain, Italy, Greece, we are always the ones at the back. And it hit very hard. So that means at that time, I thought I was making it in life because I was working for a bank, a reputable bank. I was, finally making it in finance. I was making good money. So I was thinking, hey, I'm finally making it in life. Like I've been fighting so hard for this, and I was in my early 20s. And what happened was I lost my job because my whole branch closed, many branches closed. There was no way to find a job. So that was very hard because you will apply. It was very depressing actually because you will apply for a job and you will see thousands of applicants. The unemployment rate for people under 30 was to the roof. It was between 30-40%. So you can imagine, applying for a job at that time and seeing all of
So much
that with
competition.
little experience and seeing all the people a lot more experienced than you applying for the same job, it was depressing, right? It was like, I'm never gonna, and apply for months. And I didn't even get one interview. And it's because the competition was fearless.
Yeah. And so what made you decide to come to the US? Because it wasn't particularly great here either.
Yeah.
Maybe it was better. I don't
It was
know.
a lot better. Yeah, I'll tell you that it was a lot better. So
Okay.
my intention actually was not to come here and relocate and just move my life and live my life. The goal actually was to come for 1 year. So what I did is I found this program, and some people that are listening, they may know what this is, but it's like an au pair program. So basically you
Au
come,
pair.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you come like an exchange student, basically. You live with an American family, and you go to college to do some education. So you live
Yeah.
the culture, So that was the idea: is, hey, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna learn English because my English was very limited at the time. I'm gonna learn English. I'm gonna let some time pass. I'm gonna get, I'm gonna go to school and take some classes there. That's gonna help me out when I come back. So my goal was, hey, let's do something temporarily while things calm down, thinking, hey, in 1 year things are gonna be better, and they weren't, right? But at that time, that's what I thought. Let 1 year pass. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna learn English. It's gonna open doors for me. I'm gonna live in another country. It's gonna, that's gonna open doors. Like, hey, I have this experience. I have taken classes in a reputable school in the U.S. I know, I'm bilingual now. So that was my idea. So that's how I came here. Obviously, that didn't happen, right? That was
Yeah.
2010 when I came to the U.S. It's 2023. I've been here for 13 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what prompted you to stay here? Yeah.
Yeah, so at that time, I didn't want to come back. When my year ended, I could renew my visa for another year, so that's what I did. But the reason why I stayed is because I got married.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I was able to stay legally in this
Yeah.
country. Finding a job, like with a student visa type of thing is very hard. It's almost impossible to do something like this. So I got lucky. I want to say that I actually found a person that I'm no longer married, but I was married for 10 years. And through that person, it allowed me to stay in the U.S.
Okay, gotcha. And you were in San Diego.
Yeah, I was in when I first landed in the U.S., I was in Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And then I went to San Diego. Yeah. So about 2 years later, when I earned my work permit and my permission to stay in the U.S. outside of the visa permanently, I went to San Diego to pursue my career here because in Santa Barbara I was doing different things. There was it's a small town too, so there was not many opportunities. And I've always been very career oriented. I want to be someone. I want to do something. I want to do something with my life. So I decided, hey, I need to go to another city. San Diego was offering opportunities, and it was a big city. So I relocated to San Diego at the time.
Yeah, and you were, where were you working when you went to San Diego? TD Ameritrade?
Yes, correct. That's when I started working for TD Ameritrade.
Yeah, and so, tell me about some of the struggles that you went through in the first couple of years you were in the U.S. I know that you said the time you spent in San Diego was probably the darkest time. of your life, maybe. What were you going through during that time?
Yeah. So
why is that?
Very good question. It was a lot, right? Because I was going through a big transition in my life. All of a sudden, I found myself, I am not coming back home, right? Which is, it was my decision, obviously, but that's a hard decision to take, to make. So I think what made it hard for me was actually finding the opportunities. It was very hard because, number one, I still have my strong accent, but it was even stronger back then, right? So my English was not as good as it is right now. So finding a job where you have a strong accent, finding a job where your education is not in the U.S. and they have to verify all of that, and finding a job when you actually don't have much experience in the U.S., it was hard. It was not easy. So TD Ameritrade, I have to thank, because that was the very first company that actually gave me an opportunity. So I want to say, the first couple of years were very hard just to find my way to get started, to actually have someone give you the opportunity of believing in you and say, yeah, let's give this person an opportunity and see where this goes. And it obviously, that launched my career in the U.S.
Yeah. And, I know that you mentioned, having the accent, and that was one of the struggles. But what are some of the other struggles you had as a Hispanic woman, trying to make it in this industry? I was actually just at we had a diversity and inclusion think tank here, and just a lot of conversations about, how do we get more diversity into this industry? There's sort of a lack of diversity, as you know. But what was your experience, your struggle, in that?
To begin with, it was lack of knowledge, meaning I just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. I didn't know what financial planning was. I found out later when I was at TD Ameritrade that there is such a thing as wealth management, as financial planning. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So lack of knowledge was one of things, and I think that that's part of the lack of diversity in the industry, is you don't know what you don't know. And the truth is, historically, Hispanics, have had less wealth. And that if you have less exposure to some things, you just don't know. Right? So I think that that's one of the things. The other one is actually, if I address the elephant in the room, is credibility, right? Like people, historically, Hispanics have been, more connected to labor jobs and other type of jobs that are not qualified, and more being a woman, right? So I think that obviously have your credibility when you are a woman, when you're Hispanic, when you have a strong accent, when
Those
you don't have even your
stereotypes.
education. Exactly. You have to fight with the stereotypes, to be honest. And I have noticed that throughout my career, not just at the beginning. It has, you notice those things, the credibility that you portray, etc. The last recent years, the last few years, to be honest, I haven't, because now I have built a good net worth around me, a good professionals around me. My current job has given me a lot of reputation. It's a very reputable company. So all of that has changed, but at the beginning, that was hard, yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about, finding financial planning and, coming to the firm that you're at now, the, fee-only financial planning firm? How did that change your life, I guess, finding financial planning in a firm like that?
Very good question, because what I feel like I have found my talent and what I'm good at. And it wasn't easy to get here, so when I first started working for TD Ameritrade, I didn't even know the difference between a broker and RIA. I didn't know any of that. And I started with TD Ameritrade not as a financial consultant with clients in front of me. It was more of a back office role. Yeah. And that's how I started learning about a little bit of everything, right? So I got my licenses, Sirius 7, all of these things, because I felt like I need to do this to keep growing, right? So I did all my licenses. I studied at night after work. I got my licenses, and I transitioned eventually. I went through compliance. I went through different roles within TD Ameritrade until I transitioned to financial consultant. As a financial consultant with TD Ameritrade, I was there for 2 years. And I really didn't enjoy that part, because it was more, we all know the difference between a big broker selling or a wealth management firm when you're actually doing full financial planning. There is a huge difference. I'm not selling any products. When I was at TD Ameritrade, yes, I was. Yes, I was cold calling people. I was telling people about investments, but I was not allowed to talk about certain things, right? You don't do financial planning and you don't do recommendations about Social Security, about estate planning. You don't, right? So at the time, I thought, like, this is what this is. It's disappointing. I thought that this is going to be more exciting. It's disappointing. And I was, like, looking for other opportunities at the time because I wasn't happy. And that's how I came to the company where I am right now. I learned the difference between a wealth management firm, a financial planning firm, and a broker. So that's, when I was in that transition, we're like, wait a second, this is what I want to do, right? I want to do full financial planning. I don't want to sell products. I never sell any products to my clients, So I found this opportunity, and the company Inspire Financial, gave me the opportunity to join the team. And I've been with them for 4.5 years, almost 5 years. Yeah. It's going to be with them.
How did you connect with them or find them? Did you know someone that was there already, or?
I didn't, however, I knew about them.
Okay.
So the main office is located in Orange County, California. And that's where I was at the time, where, I relocated from San Diego to Irvine in Orange County to be a financial consultant for TD Ameritrade. When I was there, I actually knew about the company because I did my research about, what small wealth management firms are out here that are actually doing financial planning.
Yeah.
So that was one of the firms. And I read actually an article that the founder wrote in a magazine. That's how I found out about the company, and I started looking. Lucky me, soon after reading that article, I found that they had an opening for an associate financial planner. Thus, I applied. I went through the interview process, and I got the job, and that's how I started as an associate financial planner 5 years ago.
That's great. That's a great story. I want you to talk a little bit about work-life balance, and I know that that's in this industry, can be a big struggle. Folks, especially if they're more own their own firm and they're entrepreneurial, they're spending hours, at the desk and networking and whatnot. And you've had to sort of deal with that on the one hand, going through school and working at the same time, paying your way through school. So I think you know a lot about this topic. I mean, how have you been dealing with it? How are you dealing with it now? Is it still an issue?
Yes and no, I want to say. Yes, I always, like, for example, when I was in Spain, I actually got my master's degree when I was already working, so I was studying at night.
Yeah.
When I got my license, Series 7, and I don't have those licenses anymore, but when I was studying for them, I was doing it at night. I was going home and studying. The same when I did my CFP, right? I was studying mostly at night. I was studying in the weekends. So, yeah, there is a lot of to maneuver there when you're working and studying, but I did it for many years. So I think for me, I was in that mode of this is what I got to do, and I'm very motivated. I'm a person that I'm very motivated with my goals. I always have goals. I always want to keep moving forward. So that can be motivated, knowing that I'm going to keep growing, right? But I also had to find my peace within, hey, I want to do certain things that are personal too.
Right,
so one of the things was actually meditating, like certain things that bring me peace and relaxation, and if I spending some time with my friends and actually going to the beach, certain things that give, that is time for me, just for myself.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about meditation and your spirituality. I know that you, started going to church recently, and that's really helped give you, a sense of peace. But talk me through a little bit more detail about how that's really impacted your life and helped you find, healing in your own life.
Yeah, for me, in my situation, I think spirituality helped me a lot. Overcoming certain things, because when you go through certain things in life, like what I did with, growing up, the way that I grew up, I had a lot of issues with, one of the parents having addiction issues and having all of those issues. So that stays with you, right? And you carry that throughout your life. And then, coming here by myself, it's a lot of things that you have to maneuver. So the spirituality really helped me. And it all started, I was raised Catholic, really, when I was in Spain, but I was never attached to a church. I never was really felt a link and a connection. It was always there. I always believed in God. I always, it was there, but was never an important part of my life.
Wasn't deep or meaningful to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I went to San Diego, I actually found someone who helped me out with basically more of an emotional healing, right? So it helped me through how to meditate with Reiki, relaxation techniques and things like that. And that really was what helped me out get of what we call, what I told you earlier about the the darker period of getting out of the emotional breakout that I had inside of me for a period. That was the starting point, I want to say. It was finding a lady that actually connected with that helped me understand, meditation, how to take care of yourself and things like that. And recently has been more spirituality. I still do my things, my meditation and my things, but it has been more linked into a church, actually, when I found people, that believe in what I believe. And I have found a new way, I want to say, of interpret certain things, right? I was never really linked to the Catholic Church. And here I found in Miami, when I relocated, I actually found a church that I really like and that I really connected, and that it's helping me out a little bit, and it's helping me regain that connection with God. I feel like I'm a woman of God, and I just needed that push. That when I came to Miami, I found some friends telling me, oh, there is this church. It's like God was calling me at a certain point, I guess. Yeah. And I found something there. And that has helped me a lot to, regain that connection with God and that spirituality, and actually reading the Bible and actually understanding the Word of God and all of that. I think that has been very important for me in the last year.
Yeah. And I'm sure also having that community of people, who have, some shared experiences and that you can connect with.
Yeah.
I mean, just to go through all of this, Maria, and, to leave Spain, at a young age by yourself. I mean, where does all this strength come from?
That's a very good question.
Pull it out from?
I have always have a little, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, a little fire on me. Like, I'm a strong person by nature. I don't give up. I'm not a giver, so I don't give up. I always fight. I always, I don't know, I always have that thing. But I want to say support system around me too. I had a very supportive mom that they, when everything that I was telling her, I want to go to college, go for it. I want to move to the U.S., go for it. I want to stay in the U.S., go for it. Everything, that every step that I had gone through my life, my mom has always been a very support person. So that, having someone cheer you up is important. So I think that is one of the things, like having the support system, and then having something that you believe on. Some people, that's not important for them, and that's okay. That's not the way that they work. For me, actually, having some type of spirituality helped me out a lot. So now if I'm going to have a difficult conversation, if there is something that is worrying me, I actually pray. And that helps me feel much better, less stress, much better, that there is someone, I'm going to call it someone else, which is God helping me and guiding me through all of this. So support system on earth, support system, heaven, whatever you want to call it. I have a partner now too, and a new partner, and he has been very supportive with my career, with all the changes that I've been going through. Since I started, since I came to Miami, I actually joined FPA of Miami. I'm in the board of directors. I'm actually joined another community of professionals called providers. I'm a group leader there, so that takes a lot of my time. And he has been very supportive through all of that. So I have been very lucky, very unlucky with certain things like related to money, opportunities in life. I have to fight for it. I've been very lucky with the people that God has put in front of me. My family is very supportive. My partner is very supportive. My employers are supportive of what I'm doing. So I've been very lucky in that regard.
Yeah, that is so important. And yeah, I thought it was actually really neat. We actually have a prayer room here at the conference.
Good to know.
So you should check that out. But do you still keep in touch with your mom and your family in Spain?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we are very close. We live in different continents, different countries, but we are very close. I talk to my mom almost every day.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank God for WhatsApp, right?
Yeah.
we actually have a family chat, just my brothers and my mom. I have another family chat with my cousins. So I have a close relationship with my family, Hispanic families, we're very close to each other, right? Family, there is nothing more important than family, right? So I keep very close to them. I visit them at least once a year, and I talk to them all the time. If I'm not chatting them, my cousins call me, my aunt call me, we do video chats. So I have a very close relationship with them, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any regrets, in life? Would you have done anything differently?
That is a very good question. And, it's something that I have thought in the past, mistakes that I have made, but I don't regret them because single decision that I took and every single path that I decided to take, it led me to something. Even if it was something that, okay, this is not the path, it was a lesson to learn. So I don't think that I regret anything. Yeah, I have made my mistakes like everyone else. Nobody's perfect. I have made my mistakes with many things, personal, professionally. Regret? I don't regret anything. I think I'm happy with all the decisions I have made in my life. Every single thing has taught me a new lesson. Every person that I cross path taught me a new lesson. So I think I do not regret anything.
Yeah, that's really profound and very wise. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have things that I did like years ago, and I'm like, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. But that's a very, very good perspective. Well, I'm afraid we're just about out of time, but I'd like to thank my guest, Maria Castillo Dominguez, for being on the podcast and sharing her story with me and just opening up, about the things that you went through. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you, Diane. It was great talking to you and be here.
Yeah. If you'd like to reach out to Maria, you can reach her at mdominguez@apellawealth.com. And we'll put this in the show notes as well. But if you have a struggle and you wish to share your experiences and help others in similar situations, please feel free to reach out to me at diana.britton@informa.com. I'd like to thank you for listening to The Healthy Advisor. If you've not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This is Diana Britton reminding you that where there's healing, there is hope. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to The Healthy Advisor, a podcast focused on advisors' personal well-being and healing. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of WealthManagement.com. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice. Always seek the advice of your healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your particular situation.